Language is not a corpse to be dissected. It is a living, breathing reverie, a festival of sound and meaning, a thunderous dance of thought and expression. Yet too often, English education is treated as a dreary, bureaucratic exercise, an assembly line of rote memorization and mechanical repetition. In China, students are handed rigid textbooks, bound in grammatical straitjacket, taught to revere sterile correctness over vibrant fluency. We learn English not as adventurers, but as prisoners of linguistic propriety. But language is not meant to be a lifeless construct. It is a feast, a delirium, an orgy of articulation. And who better to guide us towards linguistic liberation than Dionysus, the god of ecstasy, chaos, and boundless creativity? English should not be studied in cold, dead silence. It should be shouted, sung, whispered, and laughed. It should be lived. Friedrich Nietzsche, in The Birth of Tragedy, spoke of two opposing forces: Apollo, the god of reason, structure, and clarity, and Dionysus, the god of intoxication, passion, and creative madness. For too long, English learners have been chained by the Apollonian obsession with structure. Each sentence dissected with surgical precision, each word weighed and measured like a cold, clinical specimen. Mistakes are treated as sins, and fluency becomes an afterthought, sacrificed at the altar of grammatical perfection. The result? A legion of students who can conjugate every word, dissect every clause, yet struggle to speak without hesitation. The fear of error breeds paralysis. Language, in its raw and primal essence, is abandoned in favor of lifeless correctness. But to err is not to fail. To err is to live. True mastery does not come from sterile perfection, but from fearless engagement. Dionysus offers us an alternative, a wider, freer, and infinitely more exhilarating path to fluency. Forget timid, structured exercise. Forget the anxious dissection of every phrase. Instead, throw yourself into the flood. Drown in words. Language is a storm, and fluency is not attained through caution, but through immersion. Read not to memorize, but to be swept away by the tide of meaning. Let the words of novels and poems flow through you like a heady wine. Read not to understand every rule, but to feel the rhythm of language, the pulse of expression, the breath of culture. Speak not with fear, but with wild abandon. Stumble, fumble, mix up tenses, and embrace the glorious chaos of communication. Let English become your playground, your theater, your Dionysian revel, because in the dance of imperfection, true fluency is born. Write not with hesitation, but with passion. Unleash your imagination before worrying about correctness. Let language spew forth like a barkic chant, shaping itself into poetry, stories, arguments, alive with fire and frenzy. Yet, let us not banish Apollo entirely. Even Nietzsche, the herald of the Dionysian, knew that true greatness comes from the fusion of chaos and order. Grammar, structure, and rules, they are not the enemy, but neither are they the goal. They are the invisible rhythm beneath the music, the unseen scaffolding behind the masterpiece. The key is not to be enslaved by them, but to be the masters. The best way to learn: strike a balance between structure and reverie. Study a bit, then dive headfirst into the madness. Learn the framework, then shatter it with audacious use. Master the rules, then break them with style. This is the path to greats. The artists, the poets, the thinkers. This is how language is truly conquered.